Hello students, this is Mrs. Petrova with problem 7-20. Before we start, I want to remind you about our expectations. Make sure you set up your notebook or note paper. Write the title, the date of your homework. You may read directions yourself. I do read them out loud in every video. When I work faster, please pause and take and write your notes. And lastly, think. Not just copy what you see. Let's start. The area of the rectangle at right is 8 1/4 square inches. Find the perimeter. Show your work. And we have option of homework help that only works when you're on the actual ebook. Right now, let's make sense of what's given and what we're going to write in our notebook. So area means the inside. So looking at the picture, all these is equal to, let's say 8 1/4. I need blue. So 8 1/4, that's what is given. And I also can find out what about square inches. So I definitely want to write in my notebook in 7-20 the problem, but I also want to draw our picture. So a little sketch, and we are looking for the perimeter. So looking at what's given, area is important, that's inside. And then looks like looking at the side, we're given the length of 4 1/2. So how long is this? Is the 4 1/2. But in order to find perimeter, we need to also know how wide it is. So currently we do not have that information. However, we know that from area, we find it by using length times the width. That's what area is. So right now I'm given how long that is. So I have 4 1/2 times a missing piece of information equals 8 1/4. That's one way to think about it. I wrote also a note to myself to find the perimeter of a rectangle. Well, that's what I'm looking for, but I need to know not only the length, but I also need how wide it is. And I will be adding all of them to find perimeter. Well, only one time, of course. Right now, I'd like to estimate if I'm just looking at the whole numbers, 4 times what number will give you 8. So whatever our answer will be, for estimation should be close to 2, right? Okay, now another way of thinking is, well, the inverse of multiplication is actually division, so I could write the following statement. So first I need to find the width. So instead of saying 4 1/2 times what gives me 8 1/4, what I want to do is reverse that into a division problem. So 8 1/4 divided by what I know, which is 4 1/2, will give me the width, the missing piece. And when we divide, we definitely do not want to use mixed numbers. So let's change 8 1/4 into one fraction. Same thing with 4 1/2 as a one fraction. So how can we do that? Go ahead and try on your own first. Pause the video. Okay, I want to share my way of changing them. 8 1/4 means 8 plus 1/4. And now I need to think of how many quarters is in one 8 whole number. So I could do it slowly by writing 1 plus 1 plus 1, 8 of them, and then change them using the giant one. 4 over 4 is 1. 4 over 4. Remember, I need to have a common denominator. That's why I'm doing that. Or the shortcut, or the short way of doing it is, I know there's 8 groups of 4/4. So that really becomes 32 quarters. Okay, or some might think of, I'm going to multiply by 4 here and by 4 there. That's like the short way of doing it. And the 1/4 is waiting for us. So all together it becomes 33/4. So 8 1/4, we changed it. Let's change 4 1/2 as well. Okay, now we still need to change 4 1/2 like we said. I'm going to show my work. I'm saying 4 plus 1/2 gives me 4 1/2. And now the denominator for 4 is 1, but I want it to be 2. Or I'm thinking, how many halves in 4 whole numbers? Again, you could do it the way as 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. That makes 4. And then each of them, 2 halves make 1 whole. And then another one. And another one. So how many halves in all together in the 4, right? So it's 8 halves. Oops, 8 halves. So the 4, the other way was I can multiply by 2 on top and the bottom, and I still get the 8 from the top. So 8 and then 2 on the bottom plus 1/2. So whichever way you prefer, you know yourself, you could change that. So the second fraction is actually 9 halves. Okay, now let's go back to our problem. Our problem was, that was the area divided by the given length will give us the width. So now, restarting, so 33/4 divided by 9 halves. Now in chapter 6, we learned that division of actual by fraction is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal, or changing the numerator with the denominator. So 33/4 is still our area, and multiplying by the reciprocal. So notice I changed the division to multiplication, and the 9 halves became 2 9ths. Now I'm able to multiply across. Now we could do simplifying first. I don't want to confuse it too much, so I'm just going to multiply now across. 33 times 2 gives us 66. 4 times 9 gives us 36. So although this is a correct answer, now is that close to 2? We said that our answer should be close to 2. I am noticing that they both numbers have in common the number 6. So let's reduce them. Dividing by 6, or you can show the factor. 6 times 11 is the one on top, and 6 times 6 is 36. I prefer to do the division, where we do to one, we do to the other for the equivalency. So we have 11, and then on the bottom we got 6. If it was 12 divided by 6, that is definitely 2. So our answer is close to 2. Now all together is, let's see, let's separate it. 5 6s plus 6 6s. So that is 1 whole. I should have written it first. So 1 whole and 5 6 is my final answer. And of course we can check our work over here all the way at the top. Now one way to check your work, let's see, what we got should make sense with that. Now not only that, but we now have to find perimeter. So this is a long problem. Let's add this answer, and I would prefer to use the 11 6s, or we'll see, or the others. So now that we found it, we want to add it to our picture. 1 and 5 6s. And finally, we're now going back to find the perimeter. If you're out of space, continue on the next page. Now remember, adding the perimeter, we're going to be adding all the sides. So we might want to have these, or we'll see. Okay, so I decided to use my mixed numbers because the whole numbers could be added together to find perimeter. So at this time, I will have all my whole numbers as being added, or separate them. 1 plus 5 6s plus 4 plus 1/2 plus 1 plus 5/6 plus 4 plus 1/2. So really we could, like I said, let's highlight it. So 1 plus 4 plus 1 plus 4 will give us the whole number for perimeter. And then we have to really look at the portions, and we need to have like denominator. Right now we do not. So maybe we should not highlight them differently. So to finish this problem, we really need to add all those numbers together. So try on yon. So after adding my whole numbers, I color code them. So I got 10. I added my portions that have denominator of 6. So they became 10 sixes. I also decided to add 1/2 plus 1/2, their common denominator. So that gave us the 2/2. So really, the 2/2 gives us 1 whole. So what we want to do is now combine. That's 11, right? So that's the 1 whole. And then we have to figure out what that is. So finish this problem on your own. And here it is. Check your answer now. Thank you for watching.